It's 5 o'clock. It's time for the September 14th Natchez Parish School Board meeting. Ms. Revels, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Danzy?
Here.
Mr. Matoir?
Here.
Mr. Benefiel?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Present.
Mrs. McGaskey? Ms. Palmer?
Here.
Ms. Phelps?
Here.
Ms. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Fredu?
Here.
Mr. Nicholson?
Here.
And Ms. Page?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Right. Mr. Nicholson, can you offer the invocation? And Mr. Matoir, can you offer the pledge?
Okay. Please bow your heads. Father, we ask that you be with us this evening during this meeting and that you offer your strength and wisdom to us in all decisions that we make this night. In your name we pray. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before we get kicked off, board members and all visitors, please silence your cell phones and electronic devices as to not to interrupt the meeting. And one more, please speak directly into the microphone. We've had some comments about not being able to hear what's going on. And Superintendent Eloy, can you take us out?
Okay, Mr. Walsum, want to come up and do your budget announcement?
As per required, we need to provide some time for public comments from the floor that don't really need to have paperwork filled out. Anybody that is allowed now to come and speak regarding the budget that's about to be adopted.
And we have a 5-minute window. If we need longer, we'll take it, but
Longer, but if anybody, if there's nobody here, then we can,
starting now.
okay, we'll shut it down.
Can I proceed while we do that, or?
Well, yeah, if we have someone that wants to come in and talk about the budget, by all means, go ahead.
Okay, so while we're waiting for that 5 minutes, I will give you the one update I had on the superintendent report. Last week, you may have remembered that I mentioned the success so far of the SHORT program. Again, that's what we're calling it. It's short-term alternative placement, so it's just easier to say short. And I told y'all how much better discipline is, and Mr. Benefield asked if I could provide some concrete numbers on that. So I pulled up, I think you called me Friday of last week. So as of, I think that was September 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So as of September 8th, I took the same out-of-school suspensions for that same time period last year and compared it to this year. Last year, we had 126 out-of-school suspensions by September 8th. This school year, we only had 36. Now, the next thing you might be saying, well, did we throw that other 90 onto the SHORT program? So I pulled the SHORT numbers, and we had only put 40 students in that SHORT program. So not only is SHORT working, but what that shows us is that we overall have put students out of the classroom 50 less occurrences than last year. I would give specifically kudos to all the principals and teachers, but a few specific areas: Natchez Central, Lakeview, and Natchez Junior High. Those were areas last year that they probably had higher than normal rates, and we really focused with those teams to get those numbers down. And they are utilizing SHORT, but it's really more about their entire discipline process in general and what they're utilizing with PBIS. And for some of those schools, for instance, Natchez Junior High, to only have 3 out-of-school suspensions within the first 6 weeks of school. If I could take you back to where they were 4 years ago when I first arrived, that's nothing short of miraculous, but it's not a miracle. It's just people working hard and doing what's best for kids. And it's been a very successful endeavor for all schools, but I wanted to highlight those 3. So that, if you look at that, that's a 71% reduction in out-of-school suspensions. When you add SHORT in there, remember, they're not going home and being suspended. They're going to another site and still continuing their education. So even with that, you're still seeing about a 30% reduction.
So the goal's being accomplished to keeping them in the classroom.
Yes, sir. And the other reason this is important is because we have a few schools that have labels for discipline, and those are labels that we want to remove. Well, you have to have 2 years of successfully bringing those numbers for high schools below 12% and for elementaries below, I believe, Ms. Rochelle, is that 5% or 7%? I always get them confused. I think you're right. So we got to keep it below 5% in the elementary, and so the track these schools are on now, they will be well below those numbers, while also at the same time not hamstringing teachers and principals to where they're not able to still do their job. So it's good stuff.
It's a good win-win. Board members, any questions for the superintendent on this, on the results of, again, the startup of this year, which has been just fantastic?
That's all I have.
We still have a few minutes left in our waiting period. Should someone want to comment on our budget, please address the podium and just whatever questions that you have. Board members, last week, Superintendent Eloy passed out a sheet with our preliminary numbers for attendance. I don't know if you've had a chance to review that. We've got a couple of areas of concern. I do have question student membership. That's what it says at the top.
Where you oh, yes, that's the name of the report run by JK.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
It's actually called the MFP count, but when it comes up, that's the label for it.
okay. We've got, is any questions on this? So our numbers will come in October and be finalized the end of October, and I'd like to further this discussion in next month. And so if we could plan on discussing this and come to the meeting prepared for that. Reminder about school and bus issues, let's get on those early. I know you do it. I know you get the superintendent. Mr. Wascom and Dr. Eloy spent most of the day chasing down a bus problem. As a result, some good suggestions. Also, they restriped NJH parking lot, which was great. So a lot of good stuff. And what we want to do is we want to solve problems, and as opposed to the street committee putting the narrative in our mouth. So let's get that taken care of. Mr. Danzy's going to be pulling together that contract renewal committee soon, and he'll be contacting those folks. We're going to meet on Tuesday the 19th. The safety committee are within the board, and we'll be getting that information to you. And so, got about one more minute. Do you see it, Mr. Wascom? Okay.
Tomorrow, next week's meeting, is it at 5 p.m. here?
Let's do it at lunch if we can. Tuesday. You're gonna have peanut butter sandwiches, right? Oh. Bologna and water, here we go. Okay, I think we've passed that time. We've allowed a little bit more time, so we can break into the agenda. I'd like board members, superintendent's already given this update. Can we address the consent agenda? Do I hear a motion?
I will offer. Second.
We have a motion by Reverend Harrison, second by Mr. Nicholson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, informational report. Any update from Ms. Hicks? Because she had that small report. From
She was
last
not
week.
able to update it based on those numbers not coming in, but we did have, if you recall, last week, Mr. Shirley was not able to be here, and then Ms. Rochelle, we had technical difficulties, so they are here to give their reports.
Let's go.
It's you first, Mr. Shirley.
Good
Wait,
evening.
yeah, we'll go ahead, and board members, we're gonna take these informational reports, and then we're going to move the schedule around a little bit and break into that executive session.
Have y'all had a chance to look over the report and have any major questions right off the bat before I get started? Okay. We've been doing a pretty good bit of construction and remodeling at just about every school. We're still underway with those. For instance, Lakeview, we got the scoreboard finalized yesterday. They're waiting for the sign people to be there tomorrow to program it. Everything should be going with that. We got the bleachers for, or the new gym bleachers wired in and ready for that. The exhaust fan has been put on the roof for the culinary arts. Hobart and the electrician is supposed to be there Monday or Tuesday of next week to do the full install or start the full install of it and have it good to go. So we're not online with it, but we're getting pretty close. Let's see, Natchitoches Central, we had to pour a handicap ramp for one of the sidewalks. The bus barn remodel, if y'all haven't seen it, it's actually looking very, very good. Those guys started demo Monday, and they've already got walls put up, so they're moving along pretty quickly. Natchitoches Central, we had their scoreboard. Rainey, we talked with them yesterday. The electrician is meeting Rainey out there to get the scoreboard finalized for them as well, so we can get all that up and going, so we can have them for our junior high games. Other than that, just our normal everyday repairs. Also told you guys I'd have you a copy and kind of tell you what was going on with the water analysis reports for Fairview. Since we started with the new chemical, the copper has actually been reduced to a 0.17 instead of a 0.04. So we're removing more of the copper out of the lines that it was eating. So we're getting less wear and tear on it. Our silica has went up from 4.1 to 14, and that's right there where it needs to be. Our hardness has went from like 4 to 24, so we're moving in the right direction. We're still well under our parts per million, but we're evening it out. So I think we have just about got it adjusted to the point to where we need it to be. Any questions? Go ahead.
The governor passed a state barricades rule. We have, dang near 60 or so, $17,000 worth of barricades showing up. You will see those in front of the bus drop-off and the parent pickup area. You'll see barricades with some signage that we made. So everybody, remember now, everybody has to come and turn their, they have to put everything into park before they can drop off or pick up their kids. It's going to be taking some getting used to. Everybody's used to just tapping the brake and dropping off the kid and taking off. So that's some new stuff. We also have very specific areas where we load buses and parents' cars. Say most of them have car 1 through 4. Now there's going to be barricades. There has to be a separation between the cars and the children where they gather. And so you'll see all that going into place soon. The barricades are en route, and as soon as they get there, we'll get them spread out. Just want to let y'all know that is a new law passed in August. We do have the information on the way for us to take care of all that.
Any questions? All right.
Sure. All right.
Ms. Rush.
Good evening. Let's try this again. I hope you had an opportunity to preview the federal program September board meeting report. One of the things I did for this report is to give a little background information on each of the funding sources. As it was stated last week, we managed 24 different grants in our office. The big piece is the Title I funds. And these funds are governed by ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, and they are above and beyond what general funds provide. One of the good things about what we're doing this year is all of our Title I funded schools, they are creating their budget from the top to the bottom based on their needs assessments of their school. And so they're going to be sharing those with their families. They're going to have a host a Title I night, which they have been doing that in the past, but it's going to look a little different. We have a uniform template that has some slides in it that are mandated by ESSA. And through that, what I hope to do is to bring to you highlight specific schools' Title I budgets that are due September 30th, along with their school improvement plan. And I can tell you, we have a Google sheet that we're sharing, and I'm seeing some great things in evidence of needs specific for their schools and the funds to support those. And so our 23-24 budget as at the time of this report was $2,878,608. It has increased since then. So I'll report on that next time. Our major July and August expenses, we always have administrative costs, pre-K teachers, dual enrollment facilitator, paraprofessional, 5 Title I tutors. And with Title I tutors, these are decided by the school, at the school level. And these individuals have to have a focus area rooted in a needs assessment. So for example, if they see that third grade math is a concern at a specific school, they can hire a tutor for third grade math specific duties. The EL paraprofessional, which is mandated, we have to provide support for our students with English as a second language. Our standard district level positions that we fund. Instructional programs for our students, such as Star 360, Edge Elastics, which I can tell you all of the schools are excited that we were able to not pull that out of their school budget. I'm looking at Mr. Nicholson because he knows about at any time you can reserve our school budget for the needs that are specific to their schools, it's a win-win. And so we've been trying to be creative with that. Uniforms for families. As of August 28th, we've spent $6,295 and some change on uniforms for homeless families, and I can't tell you enough. Miss Helen Calhoun, she's getting those kids in schools, and she's getting them the uniforms they need, and she is just the best at what she does. With the Title I funds, it's important that we spend, and this is our goal, every dime or close to it, because we want to spend during the award period so that the students are able to reap the benefits from those funds, because it's for the students. I tell the principals all the time, these are student funds. These are student funds. And so we do see a dip in I know you may have noticed in the budget that Mr. Wascom shared, how we've seen decreases in our Title I funds because it's based on students, right? And we're down about 150 students this year. And so they have a magic formula that calculates that Title I. Title II stipends for teachers, we spent just for our back-to-school professional development, first day for staff before they report to school, a total of $43,424, which was really great. I met with the teaching and learning department on yesterday, and I told them, I said, y'all doing a really great job spending these funds down. Thank you. They're on track to spending down redesign, which as of August 28th, out of that $600 and something thousand, we've spent $243,725, 39% of the budget. And that's on a high-quality curriculum for our schools that are labeled quality professional development, all of our digital curriculum. We were able to roll all of those things out before, and I look at Mr. Nicholson again, before school started. That is very important to have all of those things in hand. With our ESSER funding, we have a grant that's going to end September 30th, ESSER 2 formula and ESSER 2 incentive funds. We are on track to spending both of those pots of money. We're at less than 20% now of ESSER 2. We just did a request for reimbursement that I was looking at before I came over here to this meeting, and Dr. Eloy, I think you'll be very pleased, because he told me he said, don't leave anything on the table, anything. I said, can we leave a little bit? Nothing at all. So we're working to do that. ESSER 2 incentive, as you can see, we're banging on the door, less than 1%, 1%, way less of those funds. And then we'll start chipping away at ESSER 3. A big part of that is the building over next to our building, and I can tell you if you come and visit us around 7 o'clock in the morning, you'll get a musical production. The workers over there are singing, and it's just great to hear. And this morning it was pretty fun to listen to them because they don't think anyone's at work and they're just bobbing along. After-school program has started at all but a couple of our schools. I think 2. Magnet is going to start up on Monday, the 18th. We have 10 schools, not 11, participating in the after-school program, which is funded by ESSER. And we're very excited about that because we partnered, of course, with transportation and the food service. Miss Shauna Hicks supplies snacks through her food service program. And then Miss Felicia Washington has been amazing with the transportation. We were able to secure transportation for Prime and Saul. And so that's where we are in the Office of Federal Programs. I know that's not 24 grants, but what I wanted to share with you were those major pots of money. Have any questions?
So us being down a bit on federal funds has nothing to do with not spending all of the funds. Basically, it's because of our numbers are down as far as our population, right?
Right, our population is down, and we have been in the last 3 years, my predecessor has done amazing at keeping us under that 15%. So if there is anything left on the table, we'll get that 15% rollover. Now, we do moving forward, we're trying to, we're shifting the way we want to do things in the federal programs department and try to spend as close as possible. But yes, that the student count is impacting our money from year to year.
And with the ESSER funds, we want to try to exhaust those funds because you're not going to get any more anyway until you exhaust those funds, right?
We have all of the money is available and it's budgeted. Right. But in terms of not getting any more for ESSER 2 incentive and ESSER 2 formula, there hasn't been any indication that if we don't spend those funds, that they'll give us another year. Right. We don't want to risk that. Right. We talked, our teaching and learning department, all of our departments got together. We just don't want to risk that. We want to show that we need this money and we're using it for all of the allowabilities that they presented to us. And that's what we're doing. And so we're hoping to, and I'll say this again, we're on track to spending those funds for ESSER 2. So we're taking it one step at a time. ESSER 2, ESSER 3, we're looking at next year is the end date for ESSER 3. And so our departments are getting together to ensure that we are on track to spending those funds as well. If there's anything else that y'all have questions about, or if you want to hear something different, please email me, reach out. I truly believe that we have to be best partners at the planning table when it comes to being good stewards of our student funds. And so please reach out if you have any questions or if you want to see anything or hear anything different.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
That was painless.
Rachel.
I thought you were going to have some questions.
No questions. I do appreciate though the help with the slide decks and stuff for the Title I night, because in the past sometimes it's been difficult trying to figure out how, as a principal, to best lay that out for the community and the families. So any help getting that lined out and straightened out is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you.
Board members, thank you, Ms. Rashaw. Board members would like to open up the executive report at this time. And Mr. Danzy, can we take item A?
We can. I know what item A. Item A says that we will enter into
Executive session.
So we'll ask all the
I need a motion first.
I'll offer.
Second.
Offered by Reverend Harris, second by Mr. Nicholson, to enter into executive session. Mr. Fredo, excuse me. I sure thought I could recognize that voice. Okay. Offered by Reverend Harris, second by Mr. Fredo. Roll call vote, Ms. Rebels.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. Matwire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefiel?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Fredo?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
And Ms. Page?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Would we ask all visitors to clear the room while we're in executive session? And this should not be a very lengthy time. Okay, Reverend Harris, you can make your motion.
A motion, we come out of executive session.
Second.
Have a motion by Reverend Harris, a second by Mr. Danzy to come out of executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Okay.
Motion to.
I did. Come out of executive session.
I guess we should have waited for Ms. Rebels, our
I'm
official
not
recorder.
important. It's okay.
Running before she got in there. You should have waited. We were waiting.
Okay, Mr. Fredo, you're right. Board members, I'd like to make a motion to offer to follow council's recommendation of approving this settlement and the afforded stipulations with it.
Second.
Let Ms. Rebels catch up.
Okay.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoir?
Yes.
Mr. Benefiel?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Fredo?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
And Ms. Page?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
No problem.
Well, we're here, let's see.
Finance?
Yeah, we go back to finance. Ms. Palmer.
Okay, Finance, adoption of the 2023-2024 budget.
I'll offer.
Second.
Mr. Waskin's not in here, and I'm assuming that's what Ms. Page is doing, but he did make some changes because there were some things that were left off. For instance, Mike's entire team was not on the budget, so he had to add those positions in. And then I think there was y'all caught a typo,
Yes.
so he adjusted those items.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Does Mr. Wascom need to address this?
He told me this afternoon he had nothing else to add.
That's great. Roll call vote, Ms. Rebels.
Can you tell me again the motion in a second? Who?
I made the motion. Ms.
Second.
Reba seconded.
Okay. Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoir?
Yes.
Mr. Benefiel?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Fredo?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
And Ms. Page?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, item B, discuss and consider approving the canvas resolution of the April 29th, 2023 election results.
Need to read that.
You got it? Go ahead.
Well, did y'all do a
I'll
motion?
offer.
There's no motion.
Okay, no motion. Y'all just want me to just do the first part of the resolution?
Wait, we do need a motion in a second.
Chad moved.
He needs to read it, then
Second.
motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Fredo, a second by Mr. Danzy to approve this canvassing.
Okay, the first paragraph where it says a resolution.
Yes, sir.
A resolution providing for canvassing the returns and declaring the results of the special elections held in parish-wide school district of the Parish of Natchitoches, State of Louisiana, School District Number 9 of Natchitoches Parish, Louisiana, and Consolidated District Number 8 of the Parish of Natchitoches, State of Louisiana, on Saturday, April 29th, 2023, to authorize the renewal of special taxes therein. Do you want me to go on from there?
No, sir. You were good. Roll call vote, Ms. Rebels.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoir?
Yes.
Mr. Benefiel?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Fredo?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
And Ms. Page?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item C, discuss and consider approving changes to policy GBRIB, sick leave, Dr. Eloy.
Wait.
I'll
Whoa,
wait,
whoa.
wait,
We're on
wait.
fin-
Yeah,
C.
I think you
Oh,
drifted
sorry,
down.
C.
See,
I think you drifted down, Ms.
legislative session, MFP.
you're just helping me out, that's all.
2022-2023 legislative session MFP increase for certified and non-certified personnel.
I offer that we give her the money to them in November in January.
A second.
Which option is that?
Proposal A.
A.
It was offered by Mr. Emil and second by Ms. Reba Phelps.
That's correct.
Can we
Oh,
roll call vote?
Yeah, we can, but any discussion on this item? Has any board member received any other calls?
I have
Yes.
bukus of them.
Yeah, one of the things that was said to me was one full-time payment as soon as we can.
what-
The way they looked at it is the state gave it to them, it's their money. So
what I-
give it to them as quick as they can, as quick as we can, and I agree with that statement.
Me too.
You know, I know there's been talk back and forth on the 2 checks, it helps them out, but, you know, I mean, that's their responsibility to manage that money and hold on to that money.
This is truth.
That's how I feel about it.
It's their money and they want it now, it's kinda how
The only,
I've heard.
the only response I'd say to that is it's not inaccurate, but all the MFP dollars are their money, and we disseminate those over 12 paychecks over the course of the entire year. So they are correct, but we do disseminate in checks over a period of time as well, so.
That's the
I
majority.
had some called, if they say we was gonna vote on one-time payment, they wanted the one-time payment in January, not right now.
That's what.
That's what.
That was the same situation.
But the majority of them say they wanted, 2 payments. And that's why I made.
Same.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing, to make sure, I don't know if it's in your motion, if you can scroll down, Mr. Wascom, remember,
This is a one-time deal.
it is a one-time, but we need to make sure that when y'all are voting on this, that you're also voting for the pre-K and Ms. Kanika, pre-K personnel and her to be included in this, because they're not in the original MFP, they're an extra 60.
Mr. Metoyer, can you amend your motion to include?
Amend it and add, that to the motion.
And we still okay with that person that seconded?
What are we adding to the
Second,
motion?
yes.
Okay.
What are we adding to the motion? I'm sorry.
To cover pre-K personnel and superintendent secretary.
All but Kanika.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear a motion there.
She didn't hear that.
You got struck down.
Repeat it,
Do we need any more discussion on whether we need to do 2 payments or 1?
Yeah, because I wanna
We're
amend
still
it.
open for discussion.
There's no pushback from the staff on doing a one-time payment. That's not a problem. The only issue would be, and Mr. Wascom, tell me if we now have enough time to put it in to where if you did the one-time payment in January, it wouldn't be an issue, but we'd have to probably put all that in prior to the December break, and then
Why wouldn't we?
Probably, depending on what time in early January you
well,
want it.
the only reason we want to do it is to make sure that it gets to them early in January, because if they get it the last day of January, then
We would have to initiate it in December. to
Why wouldn't we just give
deposit
it to them in November then? I mean, if the purpose is, It's one-time you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Well, I remember we had the discussion about, that January fall, with Ms. Palmer, and that's
I'm
why,
fine
that's
with
the only
either
reason
way,
I
but
said
we
January.
get into the conversation, are we helping people, protecting people from spending all their money? Is that why we're waiting to give it to them in January,
This
or,
is exactly right.
you know, I mean,
Well, no, I think the deal was, if you were not here the second half of the year, you would not actually earn that MFP money because of the way
it's not our money that we'd be out, right? That's state MFP dollars.
correct. The 2 payments does help you to
I'd rather give
prorate
it to the people who are gonna retire in December, so they get some as well, you know?
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here.
Mm-hmm.
It's purely about and you're gonna have about 20 different opinions on how y'all should do it. But we put out the 2 because we had heard from people, but
Right.
there's probably just as many people who've told y'all to do the opposite, so.
And the average one of them saying if we do it one time right now, most likely they gonna get it in November, and then they get this money, and then they're gonna get their tax check in the next week or so, and then then they won't have no money in January. That's why they say, what if they want it one lump sum, they would rather have it in January.
January.
Yeah, I think the term I heard it Friday night at the Niagara Central game was there's 99 days in January.
Yeah, that's what I,
Seems like that long, so it's up to, that's why I made the motion.
can I amend it? The motion for a one-time payment in January to include the, pre-K and superintendent support personnel?
You can. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So we don't wanna take a vote on the first motion?
Well, let's vote on that amendment first. And if it fails, or do we need to dispose of the first one?
Vote to
They're
dispose.
both saying the same thing, it's just a different timetable.
Right.
Either way, you have to vote.
I'll pull back on mine.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your motion?
Draw my motion.
So Reverend Harris, can you repeat what you just said?
A motion that it would be a one-time payment, in January, and it would include, the pre-K personnel and superintendent support personnel.
And it was seconded by Mr. Frady.
Employed at the time of disbursement, right?
Employed by December 31st is the payroll, right?
So anybody that retires this semester, they won't get this check, right?
No, as long as they're employed December 31st, which
If they're employed as of December 31st, they get this check. I need to make that clear because we have to have a cutoff moment.
Okay. And add that to it.
actually, Lee, it would not be December 31st because if you're doing
November
it'd be-
30th.
No, it'd be December 22nd, our last day.
working day.
Yeah.
Last work day.
They'll go in and change it.
So if they retire this year, they still would get, $2,000 or $1,000.
It depends.
So if they retire before December 22nd, they would not receive any of this
think
money.
Retire before then, but if they retired.
Can I withdraw my second on that?
Yes, sir.
I
think he
do,
feels
because I-
kind of the same way I do.
If it's one, it needs to be before January. I got confused there.
Okay.
Imagine how I feel.
Yeah,
I kind of feel that way, and then it would be on them to maybe put that money in a savings account to use it in January.
It's not our job to babysit or be
We're
there.
protecting them from their sale.
Only thing-
Back, I second it.
Yeah, because the only thing that I was looking at then is with them getting everything in, you know.
The only point I'll make is you don't have to pay tax on it. Just saying,
I mean, there is that.
if it's in January.
They were
And I'm really okay with either way. I'm trying to think through it.
I am
you
too.
know,
I
I mean,
just, what was relayed to me, as I'm speaking for that.
I know I would take,
That's what I'm doing.
if there was a pot of money and you
Well,
said
see,
you
the
can
one
either
that
have it
I-
all right now or get it paid out, I would take it all right now, right?
But the
Because
ones
then it
that
would be
say they
my
wanted
money
it
and I could
all
earn
right
interest
now,
on my money.
They was saying that
be in the best
if we
interest.
vote on it tonight, they wanted their money before the end of this month. That's what the ones, and no way you can get it by the end of the month. Because it's their money, so they ought to get it, when soon as we vote on it, they ought to get it. I had a couple of them told me that, and no
I
way.
would like to, we have a lot of payroll coming out for September. It needs to at least be sometime in the month of October at the earliest distribution.
Okay, Reverend Harris has a motion for a payout in January. We have no second so far.
Well, I second it. After
Okay.
you backed up, I second.
All right. Any further discussion, board members? Let's one at a time now.
You can amend, I guess you can amend that too.
What are we voting on now?
We need to vote
Well-
up or down.
One-time payment in
One-time
January.
payment in January.
Reverend
For
Harris,
those,
would
for
you
those
like to
employees
withdraw your
employed
motion?
as of January
As of-
22nd.
As of December
vote up or down.
22nd.
December 22nd.
Put
Sorry,
another
not
one
January,
to do it.
December
Okay.
22nd.
My question is, when is the soonest we could pay them?
It needs to be sometime like mid or third week of October would be the earliest we could pay them. Because you already have so many payrolls happening.
It would actually be the second payroll of October, I would think, because the first payroll
First-
right now,
First payroll's the 15th.
part of the issue is Chad's gonna do all his work, but then when we submit to SNS, we are somewhat at, sometimes they will get it to us the next day. Sometimes it takes a week. Sometimes, if y'all recall,
The
it was
last disbursement was.
yeah, there was one disbursement that took them a month to get back to us, and I don't know why that was a little more particular, but I would feel
It was the last incentive payment that we
Last incentive payment, yeah.
we put out.
I would feel safer with Chad not being here saying end of October is the earliest, and that's just because we don't want to, not to use a pun, but cash checks that we're not sure we can.
Without Chad sitting in this room.
Yeah, without-
Correct.
Not saying we don't have the money, talking about metaphorically speaking.
Okay.
I feel like they should get it.
So the only motion we have right now is early January. And you have to be employed by, December 22nd
As of December 22nd.
to earn that money, to
Correct.
be on that payroll in January.
So if your new hires, they're gonna get it in January, like people who start in January, they're gonna get it, right?
No, not if they start in January, they will not get it.
Oh, they won't get it, okay.
Now, if there weren't,
Anybody who quits prior to December 22nd will not receive it.
that's correct.
The
If
state,
you give it to them in October, they will.
yes.
Yes.
The state funds this, so when we actually get the allocation from the state, there's a spreadsheet that says,
to where we were.
there's a spreadsheet that says how much money and how many positions that is actually supplying.
Funded.
Yeah, that's why you see pre-K added to it, because I can't remember the exact number. It was like 1.3 million, and then on the other side, that tells you how many positions. So, it's gotta even out.
So being strategic, this keeps them at least employed till December 22nd.
Yes, that's correct.
No retirements early, huh?
I mean, they basically would have to.
Let me ask
Right?
you,
Like if it's, and on the amount of money, that would.
Yeah, if you got $2,000 hanging out there to hang in there for a couple of weeks, yeah.
you got to score.
Okay, any further discussion?
Can I amend that we pay it out as soon as we can, which is October or whatever,
Sometime before October 31st?
before October 31st? Including the pre-K and support staff.
I'm gonna have to up mine by the time this meeting over with.
Get a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Fredo, a second by Mr. Nicholson to pay it out. And which, October? Because I don't think he said we can get it in
As soon
September.
as possible.
Yeah, as soon as possible, which he's saying October,
That
so
way
October.
For all-
and check.
Give some leeway.
For all employees employed as of September 30th.
Okay.
We have to give a cutoff moment.
I'm sorry. Can you say as soon as possible?
Yeah.
The date issue has burned us in the past.
Yeah.
As soon as possible.
Yes, okay.
Yes,
That's what I was asked.
yes, indeed it has.
As for all employees employed as of a certain date, we have to have a cutoff moment.
I have another question. So the MLP money that you rationed out each month, are they still getting that money, or this is extra money?
This has nothing to do with the discussion this time last year. This is new money.
New money?
This is new money
One
that the
time.
state has given. They have, and their only obligation came that we had to distribute it before the end of, May 20th.
May next year.
It's coming May. It has to be distributed by that time. How we distribute it's completely up to this board.
Which technically, I also think people are pleased about, because a bunch of people did not know about this.
Right.
It's just the handful that do know about it.
So if you surprise them in October, they'll be real happy with you and stay and not leave in December.
I think you're gonna have
Just wanna let
winners
you
and
know,
losers
January.
in this all the way around.
Can't please everybody.
So did we get a second on it?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, okay.
So what we're voting on?
You're voting on the amendment to,
Yeah, as soon as
Pay out
Oh, to pay out as
as
soon
soon
as
as possible.
if that fails, then you go back to January 1 amendment, right?
All right, board members. We have a motion to pay out in January by Reverend Harris and second by Mr. McGuire. Motion by Mr. Fredo to pay it out as soon as possible, and whatever paycheck, we can do it as soon as we can. Second by Mr. Nicholson.
Amendment to the motion.
That's correct. In other words, we actually have two different, we have a motion and an amendment to the motion to change the dates of payout. The payout's not gonna change.
Right.
It's gonna include the pre-K people that was certified, that were stated before, and executive secretary.
Right.
We also have, employed as of September 30. Is that correct, Mr. Wasson?
I would hope we could add that.
Okay.
Language. It's gonna be a question that comes up.
Okay, and this is a one-time deal. It's not reoccurring in next year's. Okay.
was waiting.
Okay, we're voting on this MFP payout. We have a motion on the floor by Reverend Harris, second by Mr. Metoyer, which is a January payout of this MFP money along with pre-K and the executive secretary. All those people that were employed by December 22nd of this year will be eligible for that money. Mr. Fradu has amended that motion to state that we would like to see this, and second by Mr. Nicholson, to do the exact same thing except change the date of payout until as soon as possible for those employed by September 30th, and to include the pre-K and the executive secretary. Okay.
Can we hurry and vote while it's quiet?
Before anyone amends the motion.
So it's actually still option A,
No,
but it has a date attached to it. So there's no option. The options are off the table.
options are gone, simply because of it. They're, both of these are a one-time. And option A is a two-time
It's
pay.
actually option B.
One full
It's
payment
with,
first
just with
semester.
the date.
Yes.
Okay, good catch.
I know, I made that
Well,
nice little
option
thing for
B
y'all.
with the additions that,
Ma'am?
Option B with as soon as possible.
yeah, with the
first semester.
additions.
All right, let's vote on the amendment first.
Which is mine.
Yes, sir. Like a roll call vote. Mr. Fradu's paid out as soon as possible.
Mr. Danzy,
Yes.
Mr. Metoyer,
No.
Mr. Benefield,
No.
Mr. Harris,
No.
Ms. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Phelps,
Yes.
Ms. Harvey,
No.
Mr. Fradu,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson,
Yes.
and Ms. Page.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Good, it's gonna be paid out in early as possible. Thank you, board members, for your consideration and that lengthy discussion.
Before we go on, since y'all done voted and y'all can't vote no more, I really need clarification on that motion for the record.
Okay.
So it's option B, because it's a one-time payment. To be paid out
You're gonna have to help us on that, on those dates, Mr. Wascom.
we're gonna have to.
We're
put some
saying
dates
early as
attached.
possible.
Employed at the end of the month prior to dispersal, so if it's,
September 30th.
so if it's September 30th is implied in this option.
I'm telling you, I made a really good form.
Not get paid out in September.
I was really proud of it.
We budgeted.
We putting a date to this?
Not on the
Date of
check.
employment.
So,
Okay.
I will tell you, there is no date, but in my conversation with Chad, what I'm going to try to do, and me and Mr. Wasserman are gonna work with that department, is try to get it out prior to the fall break. That is going to be our goal. But, again, some of this relies on SNS software to help us out with that.
We'll be getting all kind
Our
of.
goal.
Ms. Revels, any additional information?
Break. So is it okay that I'm putting that in that motion, the fall prior to? Because
No, they just put as soon as possible, is what they put in the motion.
You have to be employed by September 30.
to be paid
Out
as soon
possible.
as possible.
So the expectation be paid in October, right?
Must be employed
As
as
of September 30th.
Money might come up for January. Right, Mr. Wascom? You can't find money for January anywhere?
Well, what Mr. Nichols said, we can't be the financial people, so if
No.
if they don't save this money, sorry for them.
Yeah, they're gonna get a tax
They like
check.
to be
didn't
cut off, that's all. Sorry for them, so.
Ms. Palmer, you made a passionate plea there a couple of months ago for a January payout.
Sure did.
So we were trying to help you out.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing I was trying to do.
I think the teachers appreciate, everybody will appreciate it.
I think you're
Money,
right.
you know, money coming at any time is good.
Ms. Phelps, that was a great observation. Hurry, let's vote before someone makes another change.
High yield investment.
Done.
I'm ready, we can move on.
Okay, great.
D, discuss and consider approving out-of-state travel for National FFA Convention.
Y'all, yeah, y'all don't have to look at that because that's below the amount.
Below the amount.
I'm gonna approve it.
No action.
No action.
Okay. E, discuss and consider policy for annual school budget funds.
Gotta have a motion.
I haven't said anything.
I'll offer.
Second. I second.
Hold on, we've got a snag here.
That's a good catch.
Guys, we're gonna have to back into that motion. We voted on the amendment,
Yeah.
and we did not actually vote on the item. We voted just to amend the motion. And so we're gonna have to re-vote that for the MFP. I apologize, I missed that. Mr. Cozad caught it. Thank you very much, Mr. Mike. So, Ms. Revels, we're gonna do this again.
So somebody need to make a, no, wait, the motion's already.
No, everything's in place. We just need to have another roll call.
Approve it.
That's right. So we approved the amendment. We approved the amendment, and we need to now vote on the item. We voted to accept the amendment, and so now we're voting on the item that Mr. Fradu brought up.
Okay. So now, did we get a motion on,
All we have to do is vote on it now, though.
All we have to do is a roll call.
okay. So this would be Mr. Fradu, Mr. Nicholson. and take a vote. Okay. Roll call.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoire?
No.
Mr. Benefield?
No.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
No.
Mr. Fradu?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
And Ms. Page?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Thank you again, Ms. Cozad. Okay. Mr. Wascom and Ms. Palmer, we're back in action.
I'm so glad they approved that money for you, Ms. Cody.
Particularly after that.
You might want to take with a meal on that one.
So the motion and second that was already done for this is still in force?
I didn't hear one, did we have?
I'll offer.
Adding.
Yes, we had a motion from Mr. Fradu
And
and
Ms.
a second
Palmer.
from Ms. Palmer to approve the amended policy for annual school budget funds.
Okay, good, thank you.
The school budget fund has been a point of confusion for a lot of principals and school systems. We're waiting to the October 2nd count, and then waiting for it to be verified, and then waiting for it to be broken apart. And honestly, they were never given a true understanding of what their school budget fund was going to be until January. Well, the year's half done. So school budget fund is that portion of the general fund that is allotted by student count to each school. And also it's gone, and it's broken down here in item number 10 right here. It's 20 under general allotment. I've renamed it, just called it general allotment. It's $28 per student. That what I'm recommending. I'm recommending that we offer $7 per student to be given specifically to art, music, STEM, foreign language, so forth. And then the breakdown. These breakdowns in item C are the existing breakdowns as they currently exist. And then I'm also adding what the teachers supply. Every year I'm asked, well, are the teachers getting their $100 per teacher? The answer would be yes. So this way of doing things, first of all, is that we're working on the February 1 count and moving forward with the school budget. This way, when they start August 1, they already know what their school budget fund. They're not waiting. The February 1 count is yes, it will differ from year to year, but it's not a material difference. Most of these schools' enrollments are fairly stable. Kind of go up, down a little bit. But so anyhow, I would like to offer the principals and the schools August 1, when they start school, their budget for the year. Now, another part of confusion is the schools pay their own telephone bill. That didn't make any sense to me. So I lowered the school budget that we were given in the past, and we pick up paying their telephone bill over here. It's also a big part of this is the copiers. I'm going to negotiate with the principals how many copiers are needed to function properly, and we will pay for that here and manage that here. Also, we've taken toilet paper and all of that out of their hands as well. I have a gentleman who is with Carefree Janitorial who's offering us janitorial pricing for the state contracted prices, and actually in many cases a lot cheaper than state contracted prices. So he's matching or beating state contract prices. He will come around once a month and restock at least once a month and restock all their toiletries. Instead of putting all this on a principal to order how much toilet paper and paper towels and everything they need, we will just restock it once a month and keep it at a certain par level so that if they're down 3 cases, they get restocked 3 cases. As it stands right now, they get an order and it's for 6 months of toilet paper. And the fact is that's just too much and it's a lot to store. So if we do it this way, it'll be easier. So what I'm asking here in this is significantly different from the past. We simplify things using the February 1 count. We give them a number based on the counts in number 10. We no longer worry about how many copiers that's being paid for out of general anyhow. All the money's currently being paid for out of general, but it's a discretion that I make in negotiation with Dr. Eloy and the principals. But we pay for it. Mr. Micah, you remember having to worry about your copier budget and all these other, and maybe, and
sometimes some of it's paid out of Title I or some.
Now, Title I will still pay for their necessary stuff, and that will still be managed. This is strictly the portion that was being paid out of the school budget funds, which is a function of general funds. So it's always confusing. So this would say, listen, I will pay your telephone bill, your janitorial supplies, and your copier and toner. This is not negating the stuff that's being paid for by Title I. This is strictly the portion that we're paying for.
How much would what we're bringing down the school budget?
Like for instance, we're bringing down the school budget significantly because I've just removed the 3 significant things we pay for. I negotiate with one vendor a better price for janitorial supplies and keep it stocked as they need it restocked. So they always overspend, for instance, and then they need more floor wax for the wax. What's your concern?
Well, I definitely like the phone being out of general fund. I think that's needed to happen, right, for a long time. That's kind of when you're trying to sell more pizzas at a ball game to pay the phone bill every month. That's not right. But I do like the principal having the autonomy to choose, how they purchase their things, and would it would the amount that the school budget is coming down differ from each school depending on how much they typically spend? Because if
I basically figured out what percentage of the school budget fund was being spent for janitorial, for copier, and telephone, and I just kind of created
each
a.
school, it would differ the amount.
Yes, and
Right.
we also brought this before the Principal Advisory Committee. I think that includes Ms. Armitrius, Ms. Crystal Davis, Mr. Coleman. Who else is in that?
I think Karen Coleman.
Uh,
No?
You wa- Yeah, she was.
Aaron's Northwestern.
And there's,
Handles their
well, and he's got to talk, but their big question was, are we losing money? And we explained what we were doing, and they said, we are not gonna have to order this, deal with this. They were overwhelmingly in favor of that part. Now, we had to move one thing that we were gonna do that they were really excited about, but it's a legislative auditor issue, so we weren't able to do that. But in general, they were, no, I already said Crystal Davis. They were very much in favor of this at the time.
So is this being bidded out as far as the supplies and things? Do y'all bid that out as principals
never- I
normally?
think because the cost is below a certain amount, it doesn't have to be bid out. Now,
See, I can bring
would
the
be a big-
purchasing. I can bring the purchasing of the entire district and get better pricing. And also, for free, we're getting the service of a gentleman going around to each school and bringing everybody's paper towels and janitorial supplies up to a par level.
I think if the principal committee was in favor of it, I mean, that is what it is, right? If they are in favor of that, but I would just be, personally, I would question, because maybe they've been using someone other than Carefree for the last 25 years that they have a really good relationship with, and now they'd be forced to, kind of similar to the mowing stance too, right? Like that's just taken out of their hands. They may be fine with that, and in which case I'd be like, hey, let's go with it. But personally, I would like to be able to choose some of that stuff myself. I don't really.
And I think if
said, though,
it's
if the principal committee voted for it.
If it's saving the district money, though, to have a bulk buying power, we really need to look at that because we're being more efficient with our money and our time. You know, somebody will be delivering it versus someone having to go get it
Right.
and saving money. I mean,
Well, let me ask you this question, whose budget does it come out of?
It's always in the past primarily come out of the general fund portion called school budget. Y'all have always, as a board in the past boards have allotted, like, if you look at 10,
It's a portion.
a portion, it's like, see the business department, home ec, and all these other line items, those are exactly as it's come from the past. Y'all used to give $30 for janitorial supplies per student. Y'all used to give like $50 per student. So what I did was I said, well, I'm taking over the copiers. Y'all don't have to worry about copiers. You don't have to worry about your telephone bill. And in lieu of that, I've just reduced these numbers down to this so that they are able to only focus on the really discretionary, because a lot of these things are in place. There's already contracts. They can't get away from their phone bill. They need it. It is what it is. There's no, it's either Epic Touch or some other, typically it's always Epic Touch, and it is what it is.
If you look in terms of value, so they had copiers, it's a wash because they were still paying it. Now we're paying it, but we took that away. Toiletries and all that, it's somewhat of a wash too, although as a district we'll be spending less on it because of the value added of the bulk purchasing. And then the one thing we added additionally, besides some of the costs, we gave some things that they haven't normally gotten. So they're getting more money like for interest and opportunities because that never existed before. And we're also paying for telephone bills, which for some of them are significant bills. And you know, you joke about the pizza, like, and I'm sure that's from experience. There's several schools that are
truth.
so we're giving more. The only thing we're taking away, to your point, is the autonomy to choose your vendor, which I will be honest with you, some of them did have vendors that they chose, but what we found during the time is sometimes they were spending more because it was a preferred vendor of theirs, whereas this guy or this company, it's good quality, it's all the stuff they want, it's just at a price that we can only get because we're becoming Sam's instead of, you know, the mom and pop gas station type of
But,
thing.
you know, service comes into play there. I mean, it may seem great if the price is small, but you may have something that's really been working well, you know, for multiple years. And it's nice to be able to, not always saying a local contractor, but sometimes it's it's nice to
Well,
have
my-
that autonomy to,
Yeah.
My point is if does a principal have to manage the money? If,
you do.
well,
mean,
that's what I'm saying. How are
through
they gonna
their-
know how many
through-
dollars and so forth? How, is that?
It's all been confusing. The whole thing of the school budget fund has been very confusing to most principals. They don't often get their number until like February. And then and they can't figure out how much they've already spent.
That's my point, because they've been confused before. And
Been confused. Some overspend before they know it's, and then some underspend severely, leave a lot on the table. So what my thought was, look, August 1, we give them their number, and it's other discretionary stuff. The truth is, the copier bill is the copier bill.
Right.
The telephone bill is the telephone bill. He's right about janitorial, but I'm going to sit there and press hard because I know what good service and janitorial is, and I'm not going to accept excuses. So the thing is that, but I mean, it's true, but that's.
And my other question was, if we go with a February, I know it may not make that much difference, but our numbers are definitely lower in the spring than they are on August 1, right? So schools will receive more money if it was based on August 1 enrollment.
So,
Okay, but
as opposed to.
but you're right, but the argument could also be made is that I would go with a higher number in the fall, but I would lower the amount per student. It still will sort itself.
There would be an ability to remedy that, especially if you saw a school that fluctuated, up 50 kids. I mean, we're not going to say, oh no, tough luck. I mean,
Right.
But really, like right now, when the thing I gave y'all, if you went by the February 1 counts for most of the schools right now, they're benefiting this go round. From
Their numbers are higher?
if you take the February 1 count from last year and you look at October 1 current counts that I gave y'all right now, a lot of them are going to see a benefit from that transaction.
And also, I gave you credit, like Provençal had very few band members last year. This year, they started out with 54. Yeah. I just went ahead and put 54. Because we're starting up some of these things as well. And
the only reason I'm asking these questions is so that if the principal's gonna try to balance those dollars, that's the reason I'm asking. Does she understand it?
So there's a lot of people out there who look at two different types of funding systems. One is school-based autonomy or school-based budgeting, and then there's district. Well, the entire purpose of a district level leadership is to support schools. So in a perfect world, a principal, would budget all their money and everything, but we feel as though as much as we can take off of them, not to take away autonomy, but to free them up to do the real work, because I know it's the job of a principal to pay the bills, but that's secondary to educating students and making sure that's going. So we want to support them in order to do that. So in many ways, we're looking at ways to do district level spending because we have the support people here to do that and take that off the shoulders of principals where they're not having to budget hundreds of thousands of dollars. We talk about this in Title I all the time and all that type of stuff, because when you look at like a school like Natchitoches Central, between their school budget, their Title I budget, then that team has to look at spending sometimes upwards of $500,000. And when you're talking about their day-to-day, dealing with discipline and everything else, that's a monumental task to overcome. So I don't want y'all to think that we don't want to micromanage them. We really want to free them up to do the job that we feel is the most important, which is the educational piece, the instructional piece.
It's a philosophical way of looking at it, right?
It's a new way of doing business, and we've been doing a lot of new ways of doing business, and it's been beneficial, and I think this is something we really ought to try.
And I'm willing a year from now, if we get some pushback, that we make adjustments a year from now as well. I mean, I think this is just a start. The biggest change is, instead of waiting to February 1 to know what your October numbers were, August 1.
Oh, I'm all in favor of knowing, the sooner the better. Obviously, it's just that autonomy part of it. I feel like, we say we're just taking it off their shoulders, but that's part of their job, right? Like is running the school and being able to make those choices.
So,
but Mr. Nicholson, to look at what's actually happening, you have some 40% of the principals are doing it, and the other ones just don't have time, or they're not. It's just not their favorite thing to do, and it's just they're missing out on certain monies that they do. Now there are some principals that do very well with this, but the thing is that, and they will not be injured by anything we've done here.
And like you said about selling concessions to pay the phone bill, that's a tough deal.
And that's what we talked to them. And I want to reiterate, one of the reasons why we do the principal advisory committee is because I mean, every idea we come up with, we think's amazing. And then we run it through them because they're the ones in the, in the foxhole, so to speak. And so they looked at this, and not that, we try to make that as representative possible as much elementary, junior high, high school, and, the person was Mrs. Conde is also on it. And then we also do city and rural, and no one brought up that issue in that group. I would imagine there'd be someone in the principal cohort who would have that issue, but that specific thing wasn't brought up in there. Because many of them already use Carefree. I think that's probably our largest vendor already.
Most people probably use it. It's the principle of it, though, and I feel like we're beating this up. I don't want to take any more time on that. That's just right. It's just a philosophy of it. That's it.
Well, the only thing I want to be sure of is that principal knows that if they got 10 whatever, and there was so much money and it's coming out of their budget. Yeah. That's my only. Yeah. Because that way they know, and they have some way to know that they've got the same bill that you've got. You're paying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In other words, somebody's not saying they're putting something out and we're not getting it.
I do want to draw y'all's attention to one other thing, though. Number 10. If you look at number 10, it looks like we're funding the labs more. We are not. The reason they're getting 32 as opposed to the 28 is because what is it that NSU covers, Mr. Wascom? For
all building costs.
NSU covers all janitorial supplies.
All their janitorial. So
we are not having to spend that money.
Yeah. So they
pass that on to.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So
the lab schools typically operate on very little.
Yeah. The perception is that they have more, but because they're the only two non-Title I schools, they operate with much less and
small schools too.
Yeah, and that as well.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
Wasn't there some questions about that $100?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ms. Page.
So that same conversation we just had, we could have again. But basically, we've just kind of decided that we'll leave it as it is, and they're going to open up different venues for helping teachers with supplies. Right. It's my story, but if y'all want to hear it from Mr. Wascom.
I'm interested in maybe this should be offline, but teachers saying they have to buy ink cartridges and stuff, and that's kind of.
So because I was at a school very similar to Natchez Central in size and scope, and what's going on, you have, I think, 4 Xerox copiers, but that sounds like, why do they have a desktop copier or printer? What happens is you put in your copies and, best laid plans, you may put that in and you may not get it till the next day, sometimes quicker, sometimes it takes 2 days, but there's the idea that everyone's using those copiers. And then, as Ms. Page put today when we were talking, if you have the student who was out and they need to take a new test and you want to give them a different test, well, you didn't plan on that. That came up out of nowhere. And so you may copy one thing on your own printer on there. And so that's why we would rather folks not use their own printers because we have all those Xerox copies, but just from a logistics standpoint, it makes sense for them to sometimes get it. Now, what we're trying to do through Mr. Kozad is as people are buying those printers, whether it be through the school or themselves, is to streamline which printers they're buying so that way we can purchase some of that printer ink for them. But right now, we probably have 30 different types, if not more, of desktop printers.
And the printers are generally fairly inexpensive. The ink's where they get you.
Yeah.
Right.
It's our inkjet.
I'll just add to that real quick. Hundreds of types. They are often purchased with private money installed in classrooms, connected to the network, not necessarily with the blessings of the technology department. They are our number one time consumer, is cheap home-grade computers trying to be used in a business and enterprise environment, which is exactly why the printers that we buy as a district, when we determine they are needed, are very expensive, is because they don't break. The printer you go buy at Walmart, my team will be there fixing it 5 times in the first year you have it, and you will spend twice as much on ink out of your pocket than what you spend on that printer. And that's why we don't support small home-grade printers on the school networks, and we encourage people to use Xerox and commercial-grade printers.
Okay.
We would like to address the teacher supply $100 a year. We would like to have further discussion and come up with some alternatives. as we started talking about with Ms. Page today, it's a broader discussion, but it can be fixed.
And we also think there's a communication piece that we can work on as well.
Right.
It ties into exactly what Mr. Mike's saying right now with what we're discussing. I mean, there are a lot of issues when it comes to the communication end of that part.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of supporting the policy for annual school budget funds, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you, board members.
That concludes finance.
Ms. Palmer, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Danzy.
Item 6B, discuss and consider revisions to 2023-24 Pass School Board Student Code of Conduct.
Superintendent, can you lead us through this?
And I'll
Move.
offer a motion on it.
Yeah, we do.
Second.
Okay.
There was just one line that we had missed because it was several paragraphs down and kind of was out of nowhere that still contradicted the removal of the one fight policy. And so we caught it last week or 2 weeks ago and said we need to remove that. So all we're doing is striking through that piece of information in the student handbook.
Yes, line item 7 is highlighted.
Yep.
You have to scroll down.
Page 14.
I think 17. Yeah, it's 14. Yours didn't make it? Yours didn't make the attachment?
Oh, it's on y'all's attachment. For some reason, we accidentally put that under
think it's down in
executive.
Executive.
Yeah.
It's on there, but it's viewable to y'all's eyes.
Okay, good deal. Any questions about that, board members? We have a motion and a second. I would like a roll call vote, Ms. Revels.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoir?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Fredo?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Ms. Page?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Next item is discuss and consider approving changes to the policy, GBRIB, and sick leave. Dr. Eloy?
Need a motion and a second, please?
We still need one. Anyone in a motion?
Call offer.
Motion by Pastor Harris,
Second.
second by Mr. Fredo.
Okay, so what this did is it struck some lines specifically where it says physician, physician assistant, and they put clinician, and so that's the main piece. But then also, if you look at the optional policy, which I'm encouraging you to adopt, we currently already have this for teachers where it expands your 90 days of extended sick leave to 30 days if it's attached to a pregnancy or some sort of pregnancy-related situation. That's currently already with teachers. This would allow it to be expanded to all employees.
Okay.
Can I ask, we struck that first part, can we go back? That means, because in the past, right, if it was 6 days, they had to get an excuse.
Yeah, I think we only struck the piece that go all the way to the top, Mr. Yeah, it's still in there. It used to say from physician, physician assistant,
6 or more
nurse
consecutive
practitioner, and
days.
now it just says clinician.
Oh, a clinician, okay.
I got a question with the sick leaves. I know COVID is rolled back up and everything. If a employee is out and the doctor, they got a letter for their doctor or a medical facility saying that they have to quarantine, do they use their sick days, or are we giving them sick days?
Yes, sir. We haven't had, I think y'all got rid of COVID leave in the spring of 22 was the last time it was offered. There's currently no districts in the state that I'm aware of that have offered it in that same time period. Actually, many of them, we went past many of the other ones because most of them discontinued it in the fall of 21. But currently they have to take their leave. That's also in response to most doctors now are limiting the length of the quarantine time. You know, at one point we were at what, 10 days, and I think sometimes people ended up being out because of re-exposure like 20 days at a time. So now it's a much shorter time, but to answer your question succinctly, we do not have COVID leave. No, sir.
Any further discussion on this item? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Right. Sick leave.
Okay, discuss and consider approving changes to policy PE, school board records.
I'll offer.
Second.
Okay, this one, you can see the additions. It's basically saying we have to post a fee schedule. You also have to come up with what that fee is. Ms. Kanika, what are we currently doing? It's
$1 for computer copies and $5 per page for hand-pulled copies.
So if you wanted to keep with that, you could. Also, the optional piece that's highlighted, copies of records not exceeding so many number of pages are to be furnished without charge. We currently do not do that. In fact, I think y'all brought out last time that even for employees. So if y'all want to address that, this would be the time to address that in there. You could even change the optional to copies of records and go through that whole thing and then put copies for employees if you.
I mean, it does cause extra work on them. I don't mind paying, as an employee, I didn't mind paying $1 or $5 for something, because it does take time for them to have to go make the copies. I mean, I'm sure that's the whole point of it.
Yeah, that is.
It's
We
also,
just had an attorney talk about how much time they were.
Some of these public record requests are like, give me all purchase orders that you've done in the last 5 years. You're talking days of work. Yeah, it's really interesting.
So honestly, the big ones you want to charge for, because it also, some of these companies put these things out there and they're never going to look at it. And so, not that you want to discourage these things, but you do want to make sure that they have a vested interest in wanting to get the material. If you wanted to put something under 2 pages, I mean, if someone wants to just, get something like that, I don't think 2 pages is going to be taking the same amount of time. We do get a lot of requests for transcripts. Miss Adrian Theus and her team are constantly doing those. And
Transcripts has a different.
okay.
Yeah, you get that
Different
from the school,
cost.
right?
Well, it depends. If you're asking for a copy of a diploma, it's $10. If you're asking for a copy of a transcript, it's $2.
Yeah, the diplomas sometimes have to be pulled out of storage even.
We go
filing
through, Miss Adrian has to go through the state for some
I'm
of
sorry,
those. We have some
for
who are
those.
looking for a diploma from 1964.
Ms. Page, personnel records. Do you allow employees just to view, or how does that work, personnel records? Because some companies have policies that you can view only, and under supervision.
Yes, sir. They're supposed to actually put it in writing, but, won't require that. If they're our employee, we know them from the beginning.
What I'm saying is, you pull their jacket, and if they want to look at what's in the jacket, that's fine. They need to submit a request, but it's generally done under review or watched, like an observed sample, and then the information is, at that point, is it school board property only, or do they have access to it?
They can see their own stuff.
That's not what I'm saying. I mean, can they make a copy of anything? Okay. Just curious about that.
As far as requests for documents, I mean, legally, if someone requests, by law, we have to
Public record?
present them that, right? Public
Yes,
record? But is it legal for us to charge them for it?
Yes,
Okay,
the legislation just came through this past legislative
That's
session.
why we're doing this.
okay.
So some of the records that we have to hand pull them because they're not archived.
Sometimes we even have to go down to the. to
Some
the,
of the
warehouse.
records are actually housed at the warehouse on Parkway. and we have to go through file cabinets or boxes
If we open
to-
that up, I'm sorry,
find those records.
if we open this up free, then that's just gonna be people not handling their own business and wasting our time.
Which happens.
So if someone wanted to make a motion that we adopt this, but with the current fee schedule as is and not do the optional, that would probably be the easiest thing. We just have to put it on our website.
But is the current fee feasible to what
Should we
you do?
double that? Should we double the fees? I mean, paper's expensive, it's expensive.
I wouldn't,
Well, it goes to the general fund, doesn't it?
leave it the way it is.
I think, I'll be honest with you, I think the current system is working because honestly,
I think so
you
too.
get a lot of complaints about the current price as is,
Right.
which means I think it's probably reasonably priced.
But would it encourage them to go online?
Well, that's only for their, for the pay stubs. Everything else, I mean, the majority of things we get are not related to, the majority of our requests aren't from our employees. The majority are from like, literally, like, we build that building over there. We'll get requests from construction companies about copy of the contract, the process we did for bidding and all that type stuff. And I'm not necessarily sure why they want that stuff, but every time there's a big expenditure, you'll have another vendor who didn't either bid or
Win the
lost the
bid.
bid,
Right.
who will come in and ask for the stuff.
Cause they're fixing to bid on another job like that.
Yeah.
And they wanna use it.
They can go down to board docs and just pull it off, but you gotta show them where.
The most recent one I got was from the big sports website for the state high school athletics. They wanted to know how many students were in every school because they wanted to check against LHSAA so they can predict what the new 5A, 1A, 2A classifications are going to be in a few years. All sorts of stuff.
Superintendent Eloy, can you repeat what you just said about the optional
So
portion of this?
I would say not to accept the optional because it sounds like no matter how many copies it is, it takes time. So vote for a motion to adopt the
Changes.
the agenda or as is, and with the current fee schedule.
I so move.
Okay, wait now, didn't we have this is an amendment. This is amendment, Ms. Ms. Revels. This is an amendment because the initial motion was to accept here, what was here on school records, school board records. So this is, now, if the person would like to withdraw that original motion, which is me, I withdraw it.
No, you can't.
Y'all know I can't make motions, right?
You're correct.
That's correct.
But you're making a recommendation.
Well, so here's an easier recommendation. You don't even have to look at the optional because it's optional. So you just adopt as is with our current fee schedule, and you might want to put what that current fee schedule is. You know it better than I do. 5 and 1, and then I think that's your motion, but someone else needs to do it. So.
Sounds good. And I'll restate it. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the school board records as stated here with a current fee that's in place right now. Remove the optional piece, which is, I don't even have that on mine.
Second.
Everybody in on that?
Except Kanika.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Ms. Kanika, check this out. As is, so just
as is what? As is current or as is recommended
as
from
is
the legislation?
recommended
Okay,
with the addition of our current fee schedule. Because you don't even need to reference the optional because it's optional. We're not even gonna worry about it.
with the addition of our current,
Fee schedule.
okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Superintendent Eloy.
No worries.
This
Yes,
is
thank you.
item discuss, consider approving changes policy BEA, school board records, surveillance and security video.
I mean, there's no optional on this one.
I believe there actually is.
The amount of days.
Yes, well, yeah, you have to insert the number of days, at the very top where it says 30. We are right now by law.
Can we get a motion first, sir?
I'm
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I think, I'll move.
Second.
Thank you. Pastor Harrison, Ms. Phelps.
Okay, so there's a few options here. The first one, we actually, it said insert the days that you want to use. We just put 30 days because our current software is doing that. Plus, that's kind of the agreed upon state law. You could put more, and if our technology allowed it, sure, but right now it doesn't because it overrides it every 30 days. The options are, if you scroll down a little bit, Mr. Walsum, you can, up a little bit. So these are the ways that if they ask for the video that you can give them the video. Upon written request of law enforcement, I don't even know why that's an option, to be honest with you. I guess there would be a time where law enforcement would want something that we would maybe disagree with that. It has not happened during my tenure. In fact, normally we instigate it and give it to them before they even ask. But I would say we're good with all of these options. If you look at the very bottom, it says by bona fide news gathering organization. We talked about this at the law conference this week. You know, there are things that are beneficial, I guess, to the common good for a news organization. Doesn't mean we're always going to give it to them, but if they do a written request and it's subject to approval from me, I mean, that's not going to pigeonhole us at all. Also, by parents and students, all these things are good things to request, but again, it still gives the discretion to the superintendent. In fact, we had a request recently that went through the process for another video system, but was denied based on a legal precedent. It was denied on that. So it still gives, you put all this in there, and I think it's appropriate to put it all in there, but at the end of the day, it still gives insurance of saying at the superintendent's approval.
So should those requests come to you and not to the principal if a parent comes and asks?
They always initiate with the principal, and what I've told the principals, and they're really good at doing it, because they
I'm sure
is saying, oh, that's a Dr. Eloy thing, and so because what's going on now is if a parent always wants to see the fight video of their children, and I understand why, but every child in that video, and there could be 20, 30 kids in that video, that is considered an educational record for every one of those students.
And this is the software you're purchasing to redact faces.
So we have
recognizable.
I've talked to Mr. Kozad. He's looking into it. They have suggested that from our attorneys to buy it. The problem is making sure that that software can work with our current camera system, and I can already see the look on Mike's face.
The problem is the state changed the law halfway through our camera system deployment and said we couldn't purchase cameras made in China anymore. So half of our schools have one system, half have another. And we got to find one software that works with both of them, and I'm not sure it exists. So now I'm looking at the cost to upgrade the ones that are on now banned cameras to the newer system and where that money's coming from. And then we can talk about redaction software.
And so what I do is when a parent asks for that, I view the footage, and then I look at how many students are in there. Can you really ascertain who they are? And if I feel good with the fact that really it's just those kids and there's not a ton of kids being shown, then we go forward. And under my supervision, the parent views the video. We don't give them a copy or anything like that, but I allow them to view it, and that's kind of how we work that so far. But this means they have to do written request.
Okay, board members, any further discussion? I know this is complicated, and now we've got other things with cameras, and perhaps we can get some closure on it. Board members, all in favor of this policy, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Next one's easier, I promise.
F, item F, discuss and consider approving changes to policy EE, Child Nutrition Program Management. Thank goodness.
I move.
Yeah, we need a motion and a second.
A second.
So all this does is that if students are on reduced lunch and the state has the money, they will pay for their lunch to be, or their meals to be free.
That just happened, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So that's the state policy. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
That concludes executive.
Thank you.
Got one more.
Oh, is there one more?
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
We're not done. You gotta give your organs up, Mr.
Discuss
Mr.
discuss
Dan.
and consider approving changes to the policy IDBC, organ donation, I read this, organ donation instruction.
All off.
Second.
Offer by Mr. Fradu and a second by Ms. Phelps.
It's from legislation. They told us we gotta do it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
All right, we have a couple of our board members who have an announcement to make about an activity that's going to take place at Lakeview High School tomorrow night.
That's right.
Mr. Frady, would you like to say something?
Homecoming tomorrow night at Lakeview.
Everybody needs to be there.
Hard to see
Mr.
y'all.
Harris,
Don't have nothing to do, come see the run game.
New scoreboard, new scoreboard.
you need something, Mr.
No, I was just saying new scoreboard. I wanted to make sure it was, everybody heard on this.
It might be
See
lit
the new
up.
scoreboard, it looks good.
It better be lit
We'll,
up.
we'll have a candle in front of it. If
How
no-
many points we gonna put on it? We need it.
The last
Mr.
the
McTwire,
last
do you have a
week,
message
that's right.
for us?
We'll join.
Any second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Feld. All in favor say aye. Any opposed?
You skipping out on the ash game? Brand new turf, man, first game.
Weekend.
Y'all have a good weekend.